We are pleased to be broadcasting live from Ambergris Caye in Belize. This is one of the preliminary events leading up to the start of the
33rd Inter-Sessional CARICOM meeting.
Right.
This is the first in-person meeting that heads of government from across the CARICOM Caribbean community are holding in person, and so this is definitely a significant event here on Ambergris Caye.
That's right. We want to say thank you to all of you who are tuning in from Belize and from across the Caribbean. We do know that this is a anticipated event, and today what we are going to be doing is showing you the arrivals of the heads of delegation who have landed here on San Pedro and are officially greeted into Belize here at the Grand Caribe Hotel.
Now, of course, we have to let you know that several of these arrivals are pre-recorded, in that several of the arrivals have already happened, and that is what we will be bringing to you. We'll be going over a bit of some of the facts and some information about these countries. It's important to note that while we're here in Belize, these are our brothers and sister nations, and so there's a lot of ways in which we have commonalities.
Absolutely. And there is a very packed agenda in the next 2 days. Of course, this is a wonderful opportunity for us here in Belize. We are happy to welcome the different delegations that are coming in for this intersessional meeting. And Paul, of course, a big part of what is taking place is that subsequent to the intersessional meeting, there will then be a CARICOM SICA summit. And so this is an opportunity for not just Caribbean nations, but also Central American nations to come together and discuss varying issues that affect them.
Yeah, so this is, Marlene, basically just the arrival day, and we've had leaders arriving from yesterday, from Sunday afternoon.
That's right.
And they continue to arrive today, some late arrivals this evening as well. And so they'll be able to rest tonight, and going into tomorrow is where the real work begins, starting with an opening ceremony at 9 a.m., an opening session at 9 a.m., where they will be addressed by Secretary General of CARICOM, Dr. Carla Barnett, as well as the outgoing chairman of CARICOM, and then we will obviously see an address by the current chairman of CARICOM, who is none other than Prime Minister of Belize, Prime Minister John Briceño.
That's right. Of course, Prime Minister Briceño and of the entire team, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they've worked very hard to be able to ensure that we would be able to accommodate these meetings. Now, as you mentioned at the top of this broadcast, this is the first in-person meeting since the start of the pandemic. I think this is such a significant change in showing how we are not at the point where the pandemic is over yet, but where some of the business can resume normal function.
And you know, it is them being in person speaks to the change of the time and how time is changing in terms of the pandemic. And one of the issues that will be on the agenda is COVID-19. And the effects of COVID-19 on health in the Caribbean, the effects of COVID-19 on the economies in the Caribbean. And so to be able to have that conversation, those very important conversations in person, perhaps brings the reality of us moving towards a new norm at the forefront for these leaders. And so I believe that on that level, there should be great appreciation for the fact that we are actually doing this meeting in person.
I can tell you, I'm not seeing, but I can hear the activity getting started behind me, which means that we are anticipating another arrival of the heads of delegation. Now, what we have set up behind us, this is the official welcome into the country. The Belize Defense Force is here, and of course a part of welcoming a head of state into the country includes the formation, which you will see them get into at this moment. They're cleaning up and they're going to change the flags. But what we are going to do is show you some of the arrivals that started
place
as
on
of yesterday,
Sunday.
right?
Yes, and so yesterday I believe we first had Bahamas
That's right.
coming in, and so we had the leader of the Bahamas coming in
So
yesterday.
Honorable Philip Davis arrived in Belize on Sunday here, and we're going to go ahead and show his arrival for you.
Now, Bahamas, for your information, they gained independence, Marlene, in 1973, and their capital city is Nassau. The population is quite similar to Belize, 377,000 persons, and their highest award, the Governor General Award, is the nation's highest award.
So there we have, this is the arrival. Of course, this took place on Sunday. As he's received with the guard of honor and officially greeted shortly thereafter by the CEO of Foreign Affairs for Belize, Amalia Mai. There you see the flags flying just behind him.
To his right is the Belize flag, and to the left, of course, is his nation's flag. There you go. Greeted by CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Amalia Mai.
Thank you very much.
And basically what we will be seeing throughout this evening's broadcast is a repeat of these protocols, where they're greeted by the CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs before they're led off onto the compound. And then secondly, we have St. Vincent,
That's right.
the nation of St.
So
Vincent.
this is the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Honorable Montgomery Daniel.
Yes. Now, just a couple facts about St. Vincent. Capital is Kingston. Their population is 100,892. Their order, the highest award, national award, is Order of the British Empire and MOE. Their independence was achieved in 1979. St. Vincent. Marlene, you will recall that tragedy struck this island in December of 2020 with the volcanic eruption of La Soufrière, right? And we know the devastation caused there and how the CARICOM community came together to offer support to this nation in that time of crisis. Yeah, St. Vincent, like many of the nations across the Caribbean, have faced natural disasters of this type.
Well, you know, I think as we go back to the significance of the meeting that is going to take place over the next 2 days, we understand that the Caribbean community has faced their significant challenges over the past 2 years, and COVID-19 was not the only challenge. I'm sorry, we're moving into the next arrival here. This was earlier today, just about 2 hours ago, where we saw the arrival of the Prime Minister of Dominica, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit.
Another name for Dominica is a nature island of the Caribbean. Such a beautiful country Dominica is, just mountainous, the greenery, the ocean, there, the people amazing representation of the community that the Caribbean really is, and the type of people that we find in the Caribbean. Their populations are quite a small country with just about 72,000 persons living in Dominica, and their capital city is Roseau, the capital of Roseau.
All right. Now, as we said, we'd be playing back some of these arrivals. And at this time, you would be seeing the Premier and Minister of Finance of Montserrat, Honorable Joseph Farrell.
Now, interestingly, Montserrat is also known as the Emerald Isle. Emerald Isle, its capital is Plymouth, which according to information was abandoned in 1997 due to volcanic threats. Population, another small island, Marlene, perhaps one of the smallest islands in the Caribbean, with a population as of 2009, a population of just around 5,000 persons. So definitely one of these smaller islands, and the highest national award, the Montserrat Badge of Honor. So there he greets the CEO. Yeah, across.
Everything went well?
Another interesting fact about Montserrat.
Checking in there, you can hear some of the audio. They're, finding out about flight arrangements. So, traveling at this time is definitely a hassle for many. we must acknowledge that much. And so I think being able to coordinate everything for today's arrival has definitely been with its challenges. We had some showers of blessings just about an hour ago. There's some dark clouds, but we're told, of course, that this won't be the forecast for the next 2 days. We are hoping for sunny skies as Belize hopes to show off her best here at Grand Caribe on San Pedro town, and we are preparing, to show you the earlier arrival as well. This was the third arrival for today, which was the Duty Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Honorable Dr. Natalio Wheatley.
Now, following the showers, Marlene, we did see a beautiful rainbow behind us. You missed it?
I missed the rainbow. Okay, that's a great omen.
It's definitely it's a sign that the weather may be on our side. The scene will remain on our side, because right now we're definitely getting that type of weather that we're looking for. So there you have Honorable Wheatley being escorted down the red carpet to, as his counterparts did, be greeted by the CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, CEO Amalia Mai.
All right, as I said earlier, we have seen the BDF is now in formation. They are, in fact, preparing for the arrival of 3 more heads of states. Now, I do want to make it clear that the representatives who are going to be coming through this area is, of course, for leaders of the CARICOM countries.
So we're talking presidents, prime ministers, and deputies, leaders. So that's what we're seeing here. Of course, they don't travel alone, Marlene. These leaders oftentimes travel with their entire delegation. So we've seen where some countries are bringing their Minister of Agriculture, for example, because obviously food security and agri-production is huge on the agenda. We see also where leaders are bringing in their press team, their press secretary, videographers, photographers. But now those persons, you won't see them coming in from this pier,
or on the carpet,
or
at
on
least,
the carpet at least. This is something else. What we understand is those additional persons may be coming in via motorcades as well, and so that's definitely something that's taking place here. Again, as well, the security, the level of security on the compound, high alert, high level of security we're talking about.
So for those of you who are joining us from the Caribbean, I know we're streaming live on UETV and on CARICOM's page. So for those of you who are tuning in, San Pedro is a very small island.
It is.
And so it is quite a feat, but I have to say, since we arrived earlier today, there is a lot of security on the ground. Quite a few adjustments on this very popular island have been made to be able to accommodate the high-level representatives that are going to be here. And as we said, the inter-sessional meetings kick off tomorrow, March 1st at 9 a.m., where you'll be able to stream once again the opening ceremony at the same on the same platforms that you're watching at this time, so you can be able to see the official address by the CARICOM Secretary General, the outgoing chair of CARICOM, and the current chair.
You know, it's kudos to the organizers. It really is a logistics feat to have all these leaders here together, and I understand that the stage is set for them. And speaking of Belize, that they are also set to experience some culinary, cultural experiences here in Belize. So I know that is being set for them some in the agenda sometime tomorrow. They'll be able to get a little bit of taste of the Maya food, the food from the Mayan people. That's one of the ethnicities here in Belize.
Yeah.
They'll also be able to get a taste of the food from the Garifuna people. And as we understand it, the leaders for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they were in Dangriga this morning. Now, again, for those who are within the Caribbean, outside of Belize, Dangriga is a Garifuna settlement in Belize, known as the culture capital. And so, at the request of the leaders of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they made their visit to Dangriga to experience a bit of that familiar culture, because it's very familiar to the island of St. Vincent and Grenadines. So we understand that the Garifuna people have a deep history
with
over
St.
there.
Vincent.
And so I'm sure when those leaders visited Dangriga, they felt right at home. I'm not sure if we were able to get them from Dangriga. I believe we were able to get them to convince them, hey, you have work to do, come to San Pedro to get that work done.
It is a great example to show the shared culture that we do possess. I think one of the things when we identify as Caribbean, we find each other wherever we are. And we've all had that opportunity where, you're in a foreign country, you meet somebody else who's from the Caribbean, and it feels like we're the same. It doesn't matter if you're on an island far away from us here in Belize. We still have those shared roots. And so, talking about the links with the Garifuna culture, St. Vincent and Belize, that's one example.
Yeah, we have shared culture for sure. I know that I've done quite a bit of travel across the Caribbean, and everywhere you go, they eat rice and
a
beans.
version of rice and
it's always rice. I was just going to say, it's most places an altered version. You get rice and peas, you get peas and rice. Some places you get pilau. I don't know if you heard about pilau from Trinidad.
No,
oh my gosh,
beat me with that one.
Pilau.
When we talk Trinidad, I just talk doubles.
That's well, come on, of course the doubles, but you get the pilau, where you get the rice and the peas and the chicken mix up together in one, and it is an amazing dish. So you see the ingredients, they're very similar, so definitely we share in food.
And when the agenda comes up, on the agenda item where they are talking about things like food security, I know one of the very important conversations that's going to be happening is the implementation and the continued implementation and the rollout of the Caribbean single market and economy.
Yeah.
We are, in fact, awaiting the arrival of Prime Minister Mia Motley, and we know that she has taken on the challenge
Yeah.
of trying to get the rest of CARICOM to be able to fulfill their duties when it comes to the rollout of CSME. You see, the thing is, Paul, the Treaty of Chaguaramas and the identity we all ascribe to as members of CARICOM, there are real life plans in place and applications, thank you, in place for us to be able to benefit from. And so meetings like this, of course, heads of government, they meet twice a year. So there is the actual heads of government meeting, and then there's the inter-sessional meeting. This is the inter-sessional. We are proud to be hosting it here in Belize, but it does give them an opportunity to stay on track.
No, Marlene, the regional integration movement, it's a huge movement. It's that of a visionary to see Caribbean communities integrated in such a manner where a single market is defined as well as a single economy.
Okay,
And
so we're just
here-
going to update you on what you are seeing at this moment. This is the boat that is arriving. We are told that we are anticipating the arrival of the
President of Guyana,
That's right.
Dr. Irfan Ali, as well as the President of Suriname, Dr. Honorable Chandri Kapersad Santoki, as well as the
Premier of Turks and Caicos.
Premier of Turks and Caicos.
All right.
And
So this is the current schedule. We do want to let you know that. So it is subject to change, but we'll be sure to know when they're coming off. This has been the expected format, that you have several of the heads of state arriving, and
now
then they're welcomed welcome consecutively.
they all come off the vessel and they wait under the shed where they're welcomed, as you said, consecutively, one at a time. They're greeted by the CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, CEO Amalia Mai, where she takes a brief walk with them to the end of the pier, and it's just basic formalities, casual conversation, where she asks about their flight and how they're doing, and then they leave her side and she moves on to the next leader.
So we are anticipating the arrival of the President of Guyana.
Guyana, also known as the land of many waters. It really is a land of many waters, Maleni. Some of the biggest rivers and waterways are on Guyana. And of course, there's a lot of similarities between the Guyana and Belize. For one, Guyana's economy is driven heavily by agriculture. For one, the type of soil that they have is that similar to Belize, and so they have a thriving agro-productive sector. In fact, studies show that in the year 2020, agricultural production made up for almost 20% of the nation's GDP. That's a huge percentage in GDP. And so there we're seeing the arrival.
So
So that's the leader of Guyana, Marlene.
So there you have the President of Guyana, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, being received by the Chief Executive Officer of the Foreign Affairs in Belize, Malemai. And I do want to note that joining President Ali is his Minister of Foreign Affairs. He also is bringing his Minister of Agriculture as well as others in his delegation.
Guyana population of 800,000 persons, making it almost twice the size of Belize in terms of population. It's good to get out some of this information to get a mental picture of the size of the nations that we're dealing with here as well.
Well, and you know, I do think it is important to note that a typical part of what is commonly discussed, or on the agenda, I should say, is territorial disputes that CARICOM nations do face, and the issue of Guyana and Venezuela will be a part of the agenda in the intersessional meeting.
In conversation with the Secretary General via Zoom earlier today, she noted that this is always a part of the agenda, territorial disputes.
All right. Now we are looking at the arrival of the President of Suriname.
Yes, it's Chandri Kapersad Santoki, President of Suriname. It's perhaps one of the hardest names to say in CARICOM leadership.
All right. President Santoki is making his way down, greeted with the Guard of Honor, and now officially welcomed to Belize by CEO Malemai.
His Excellency President of Suriname, Chandri Kapersad Santoki, leads a population of approximately 500,000 persons.
All right. And there you will also see the former Assistant Deputy Secretary General of the OAS, Albert Ramden. I believe that's him. Yes. All right, now we have the arrival of the Premier of Turks and Caicos,
Honorable Charles Washington Missick.
All right. So if you are just joining us, of course, we are broadcasting live from San Pedro Town in Belize at the Grand Caribe Hotel, where the stage is being set for the 33rd Inter-Sessional meeting of the heads of Commonwealth. We have seen so far the arrivals of the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadine, the Prime Minister of Bahamas, the Prime Minister of Dominica. We have seen the Premier of Montserrat. We have seen the President of Guyana and the President of Suriname.
And now the Premier of
Turks
the
and
island of Turks and Caicos.
And we have also seen the arrival of the Deputy Premier of the British Virgin Islands. So I do want to make note of the fact that the Jamaican delegation has arrived. Of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, has already arrived, and we are anticipating the arrival of, at this time, that includes the Prime Minister of Barbados, the Prime Minister of Grenada. And those would be the two final arrivals that we are anticipating. Of course, the other delegations are that are not being led by President or Prime Minister. Their motorcades are happening on the other side of the hotel. So
again, the stage is set, Marlene, and today is the arrivals. Tomorrow we will see the official start of the meetings. So that is what we expect to see tomorrow. A few things on the agenda that we've raised, which includes, of course, the implementation of CSME. And this is one of the questions that we raised to the Secretary General, Dr. Carla Barnett, in her session with the media earlier today, questioning what steps will be taken, what will the conversation be surrounding the implementation of the CSME. And she spoke to a protocol that they will seek to establish, which says a protocol that they will seek to establish, which will not necessarily, which will say that you don't necessarily have to agree with, as a nation, as nations of the Caribbean, you won't necessarily have to agree with a policy. You wouldn't necessarily have to agree with a part of the CSME to be able to move for the community to move forward with implementing it. So basically saying, if I as Belize wants to implement a part of that CSME, that I don't necessarily need to wait until another nation signs off on it and says, yes, I agree with it as well. And this is all part of seeking an attempt to try and expedite this process of the full implementation of CSME. I think it has come to the fore more now than ever due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This has come to the fore as part of that solution for economic recovery throughout the Caribbean, because the effects of COVID-19 was wide.
Yeah, and I do think, Paul, we have seen with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen when we talk about climate change, we've seen where when the Caribbean unites, we are able to get far better results. You're talking about being able to access vaccines at an early time in the pandemic, where other countries are where the terms are fair for all.
Indeed.
So I say that to say that I know that Prime Minister Motley has written to members of CARICOM talking about the progress for implementation. And so that is definitely going to be a very critical part of the agenda that will take place.
A huge part of the challenge is, as I understand it, is creating policies and national strategies that speaks to the wider community versus that speaks solely internally. So I understand one of the challenges to be that a lot of the policies and that are being created in Caribbean nations are internally focused. And what Prime Minister Motley, as the head of that area, is seeking to do is encourage Caribbean nations to create policies that are inclusive. And so this is definitely a part of the first step towards that. But when you talk about CSME, Marlene, you're talking about free movement of people.
Yeah.
You're talking about the free movement of service. You're talking about the free movement of business, the free movement of currency. I don't think that you could imagine how great of a benefit this will be, or this is, to community members of CARICOM. In fact, you will see that a part of the implementation on our passports. All our passports have the CARICOM stamp.
Yeah.
That's one sign that we're all one big community. When you look and you see our leaders, CARICOM leaders coming in, we could all relate.
We have a sense of pride.
We have that sense of pride. These are our leaders. It's not just leaders in far off countries.
Yeah, and where we can identify with, as I said before, the similarities in culture, but also the similarity in challenges. And that's why, you know, the next arrival that we are awaiting is that of Prime Minister Motley. And she will be arriving. She also has a very large team that will be traveling with her. Now, I think it's important to note, because Prime Minister Motley has definitely become a well-known and a well-liked and a well-revered figure in the Caribbean since she has been in leadership. And this is very much due to the fact of some of the public statements she'd made at the United Nations at COP26. You know, we all very often want to see someone stand up on behalf of us, and she has definitely done so. I think that speech at the United Nations, it was the buzz everywhere. So she has become, and especially here in Belize, you know, I think when we spoke with people about the heads of CARICOM coming in, one of the first questions we got asked was Prime Minister Motley coming, and she is going to be here.
She has proven to the Caribbean, to the world, that she has what we call that broad back to carry the mantle, to carry the issues that and the challenges that the Caribbean communities face, to carry them on a global stage, to be the fore and to be the voice of these issues, and to be an inspiration not only to those across the globe but to those within her community. What I think a discussion that needs to be had is education. In terms of understanding, in terms of nations and their population, understanding the role and the benefit of this implementation of CSME. Basically, across the Caribbean, what we know is that there's a lot of grassroots people. The question is, how do we get this information, these informations, the benefits of CSME, for example, into grassroots communities? How do we get them into the schools, into the primary schools, into the high schools, even at a tertiary level? How do we assist through education in understanding our common identity as a Caribbean people, understanding our uniqueness? Because I believe that we stand a greater chance when we stand together as giants in the globe.
That's right. And that leads me, and although we are at this point talking about the arrivals of the for participation for the 33rd Inter-Sessional meeting for the heads of government of CARICOM, a very critical turn that takes place just after the closing on Wednesday, March 2nd. We then move into the following day, the CARICOM
Sika.
Summit.
Yeah.
And also, very important, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres will be traveling to Belize to be able to address the leaders of Central America and CARICOM. Now, this is a particular moment for us here in Belize. You've traveled to Caribbean countries, I have as well, where you still have to kind of say, yes, we are part of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And when friends from the Caribbean do come here, they realize, yes, culturally we're very much
alike.
Caribbean. But we are in Central America. And so this is one opportunity where we get to really play that bridge that we have always said we could be. And that we've been working to be able to promote all these years. So the CARICOM Sika Summit will be on March 3rd, as we said. A part of the opening session will include an address by the UN Secretary General, and he'll also be taking that time then to visit some of the areas that have been affected by climate change, which is an issue that has affected many countries across the world, but also especially here in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think it's significant that the Secretary General of the United Nations is taking this time as a part of this official trip to visit the areas affected by climate change in Belize. We know of these areas very well as Belizeans. A lot of it has been highlighted in media coverage across the nation, and it's nothing like seeing it firsthand. And so kudos to the Secretary General of the United Nations to take his time to be a part of such historic changes in our nation. And like you rightfully said, different communities in the Caribbean have seen the effects of climate change at different levels, understanding that unlike Belize, many of the Caribbean nations are actually islands. So it's a different thing when you have a land like Belize that shares mainland and coast with the Caribbean Sea versus nations across the Caribbean that are islands, that when they lose parts of their land, they're actually losing parts of their home, parts of their land. And so that definitely is something we will see happening in terms of discussion on climate change, and how do we get to that critical and most important reduction of course, of the from 1.5 degrees Celsius. So these are topics that we will see raised in these meetings when it comes to climate change across the region.
Yes. So, as we said, we are awaiting the arrival of the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Motley. Prime Minister Motley will also be joined by her Foreign Minister, as well as she has a large delegation that's coming along with her. We are still awaiting the arrival of the Prime Minister of Grenada as well. And we are, I think beyond that, the other delegations have already arrived, and they're all settled in, ready to work for the next 2 days.
Again, just to bring up since we made mention of the Prime Minister of Barbados, again to bring up the critical issue of climate change, to stay on that for a bit, just to say that the prospect, Marlene, of exceeding that 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature by 2030 seems imminent. And these conversations with head of government, they're coming out of the COP26 meeting. And obviously leaders within the Caribbean are saying that they're not happy with the outcomes of COP26, in terms of what they were demanding of these global emitters, these large global emitters. And so discussions at this 33rd Inter-Sessional meeting, CARICOM Inter-Sessional meeting, will also be focused on how does the Caribbean prepare for COP27, where they will also go with demands, but this time understanding the playing field and seeing how they could get more from COP27 for the Caribbean, for the CARICOM community.
And of course, the goal here is climate action.
Of course.
I think the disappointments that came from COP26 is also we have the representatives of the 5 Cs who will be a part of and that is the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, which is based here in Belize. We had a conversation with him this morning, and it is a chance for them to take stock as to what progress or what they considered may have been progress at COP26, and then preparing for COP27. But there's also other meetings that are coming up as well. You have the Summit of the Americas that's coming up in the summer as well. And so I think being able to recognize, and especially considering Central America and Caribbean countries coming together, that's a large percentage of the total America and countries in the Americas. And so the ultimate point here is that when we come together, we are stronger and we have far greater influence. And we have seen that before in previous climate change conferences, and it still is a point as to why all of this, all that you see here is still very much necessary.
People may ask, why should I?
So there we go, we're shifting over. I believe we have images of the boat with the... So for those of you who perhaps are trying to understand the landscape of the arrivals, so San Pedro is on Ambergris Key. It's an island off the coast of Belize. The international airport is on the mainland, and then they fly over a short 15-minute flight to San Pedro town, where they are now being brought over by boat to the north end of the island, where they are officially welcomed to the country.
So at this moment, we're expecting the arrival of Prime Minister Mia Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. He's walking. Let me see. Barbados, also known as the land of flying fish. Those who are not aware. And of course, as we made mention of earlier, Mia Motley, Prime Minister Mia Motley, is the lead head of government with responsibility for CSME. And a big congratulations for Barbados. They recently became a republic nation. That is in November of 2021. That was only 3 months ago. And so this, I believe, again, as another significant point, this is Prime Minister Mia Motley's first intersessional meeting, first meeting with the heads of government as a leader in the Republic of Barbados. The capital, of course, is Bridgetown. The population, well under the population of the nation of Belize, is 285,000. That is as of 2013.
So, as you're seeing at this time, the delegation from Barbados is arriving. I believe there's only one late arrival or one further arrival after Prime Minister Motley, and that would be the Prime Minister of Grenada.
You know, Marlene, there's a little friendly fight or controversy between the islands of Barbados and the island of Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to flying fish.
Oh,
Yes, because while Barbados is known as the land of flying fish, Trinidadians oftentimes say it's our flying fish that they're seeing. They're taking our flying fish, and those belong to us, and that's why they get the name. Yeah, so that's just something I learned during some of my travels in the Caribbean.
okay.
Who could tell whose flying fish it is? Unless they have passports.
And with climate change and the way fishes are moving
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Migration and all of that.
All right, so here we have the official arrival.
Official arrival of leader, Prime Minister, Honorable Mia Motley, leader of the island of Barbados.
And there you have the arrival of Prime Minister Mia Motley, who, you know, I don't know how many people are aware, but Prime Minister Motley has a relationship with Belize. She has, in fact, her father was a judge on the Court of Appeal, so that does mean that she is very familiar with Belize and spent some time
fact,
here
I
as
didn't
well.
know that.
There we go. We have the Minister of Foreign Affairs introducing himself as well.
Attorney General, Director of Communications.
And all right. So, following the arrival of Prime Minister Motley, there is only one other Prime Minister yet to arrive. That would be Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell of Grenada.
Right.
So, Paul, at this time, what we are going to do is to close off our broadcast. We will, of course, we understand that there has been a delay in the arrival for the Prime Minister of Grenada. Of course, we will share with you the video of his arrival a bit later.
Yeah.
But we'll close off the live broadcast at this time. Please remember that if you are tuning in, whether you're tuning in on Facebook or on YouTube, whether you're on the Government of Belize press page, UETV, or if you are watching through CARICOM, this would be the same place you'll be able to see the opening ceremony tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Belize time.
As well as the closing ceremony press conference.
Okay, but that will be on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, yes.
So
that's what I was about to
Tuesday
say.
at 9 a.m. you'll be able to see the opening of the 33rd Inter-Sessional meeting of heads of CARICOM. And then they get to work And then we have the opportunity for a closing press conference at the end of Wednesday, which will also be broadcast live. So please, set your reminder, and so you can be able to tune in from whatever part of the Caribbean you're watching from.
Thank you for joining us until
Yeah.
tomorrow.
The skies cooperated
It
with
is.
us. That's the blessing that we needed.
And did you see that Prime Minister Motley brought the sunshine with her? She did, because look at this beautiful sunset behind us at this moment. All came in with Prime Minister Motley.
All right, so this is, of course, just the official arrivals. The work starts, and we will be sharing that with you, as I said, and you can watch on this very same platform that you're watching now. And that is it for us, live from San Pedro Town in Belize. I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
All right, and thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon.